NASCAR Busch guys are heading to Nazareth for round 11. We'll tell you who's been making the grade as we hand out our first NASCAR Busch Series report card. One Busch driver who gets an A for effort is Andy Santerre. We'll take a closer look at this remarkable young driver who overcame adversity to pursue his dreams. Plus, we'll celebrate NASCAR's 50th with a look back at Buddy Baker's racing career. And go in focus with Jack Sprague, who's leading the Craftsman Truck Series points. And has his sights set on another championship.
The speedways we run well at. I feel like our short track program is real strong. And as long as we keep doing what we're doing, I don't see anything touch us.
Say cheese, you're going inside NASCAR.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Sunday morning edition of Inside NASCAR. Well, the fireworks may have died down and the lights long since been turned off, but you can bet everyone is still talking about last night's surprise finish to NASCAR's annual All-Star event, the Winston. Ever since the non-points, no-holds-barred event debuted back in 1985, the Winston has provided some of the most exciting and spectacular finishes in Winston Cup racing. But still, last night brought us something we'd never seen. Things started off here on TNN with the Winston Open first. Our Tyler Potter has highlights from both events.
Jeremy Mayfield was the pole sitter in the Winston Open, but by turn 3, Jimmy Spencer was in the lead. 3 laps in, we saw the first caution when Brett Bodine spun several times off of turn 4. It was a single-car incident that could have been a lot worse. Great three-way racing for first in the early going between Spencer, Mayfield, and Ward Burton. Burton would lead a few laps later, assuming the point on lap 11. Problems for the number 46 First Union Chevy of Morgan Shepherd. He's in on lap 17 with a vibration problem. That same problem plagued Spencer, who quickly fell out of the top 10 and out of contention. Mayfield reassumed the lead on lap 24. He led 23 of the 50 laps on the night. A close call for Burton here as he nearly makes contact down the backstretch. While he saved it, he was through after blowing the motor just 11 laps from the finish. Joe Nemechek made a run at Mayfield in the closing laps, but he could not get by the current points leader. Mayfield wins the Winston Open by 5 car lengths over Nemechek. Spencer, Dick Trickle, and Kyle Petty rounded out the top 5.
My whole weekend has just been perfect. You know, I don't know how another way to describe it other than perfect. I mean, so far it's been great. I mean, win, lose, or draw now in the Winston, we've done everything we could possibly do.
Bill Elliott led the 20-car field to green in the Winston, but moments later the yellow was out after Ernie Irvin crashed in turn 2. Terry Labonte was in front on the restart until his teammate Jeff Gordon got by later that lap. Then Dale Earnhardt in his Bass Pro Shops car spins off turn 4. He would continue, but on lap 9, Darrell Waltrip loses an engine, drops some fluid, causing John Andretti to hit Earnhardt in turn 1. All 3 drivers were done. Earnhardt was taken to a local hospital, but checked out okay. Jeremy Mayfield was hoping to become the second driver to win the Winston from the Open, but a broken drivetrain ended his night 12 laps into the first segment. Gordon would go on to win that first segment. Now, one of the new twists to this year's Winston, the wheel that was spun after the first 30 laps. The number 4 came up, meaning the first 4 drivers would be inverted for the second 30 laps. Gordon, Bobby Labonte, Mark Martin, and Sterling Marlin were the drivers. So with Marlin in front, the second segment began. But less than a lap in, Kenny Irwin broke loose off of turn 2. Terry Labonte, Ricky Rudd, and Rusty Wallace all suffered damage. Labonte's car caught fire, but Terry did get out safely. When they got back to racing, there were just 15 cars left. Mark Martin went on to win the second heat. When pit road opened before the final 10-lap shootout, every car came in. Gordon jumped the restart, so they waved the yellow and did it again. Gordon appeared to be on his way to his 3rd Winston win in 5 years, but as he came to the white flag, his car slowed. He had run out of gas. He finished 12th.
We're all disappointed right now. I'd rather run in the middle of the pack all day long or at the tail of the field all day long instead of come off, taking the white flag and run out of gas and lose a race like this. I mean, this is my kind of race. This is this team's kind of race. We just really get geared up for this. And, you know, I just hope that we learn something tonight. We can run this well next weekend.
Martin was one of the few drivers to take on 4 tires in that final pit stop. He He came out sixth, but he came home first. The perfect ending for him after 8 winless years in the Winston.
Big surprise. The best wins are the ones you don't expect, and obviously coming off of turn 4, I was racing for second, not for first. Ray Everham and Jeff Gordon had done the right thing, and they had gotten a great restart, and made the right choices, and they had it in the bag. But, you know, you got to have enough gas in these things, enough life in the engines, and I think, you know, I used to not be the luckiest person around, but I think I may be one of the luckiest persons around this year. We're getting back a bunch of them that slipped away from us a few years ago, and it's all coming back.
But when we come back, we'll take a look at some of the news surrounding this week's Winston. Plus, we'll set the field for this afternoon's Busch Series race from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Stick around.
Inside NASCAR is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that whenever you feel good, it's Miller time.
As NASCAR celebrates the Winston this weekend, it's only appropriate to celebrate the man whose brainchild it was, T. Wayne Robertson, the former president of RJR Sports Marketing Division, who was killed in a boating accident earlier this year. Plans to honor him were announced at CMS this weekend, along with several other announcements. At a news conference on Friday, officials of R.J. Reynolds presented checks totaling $210,000 to the Brenner Children's Hospital, Air Care, and the Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary from money raised at this year's annual Winston Cup Preview. The preview was another of Robertson's innovative ideas, and as a result, the tobacco company is renaming the event the T. Wayne Robertson NASCAR Winston Cup Preview. In addition, Reynolds is also forming a memorial fund in his honor to support nonprofit organizations in and out of racing. A portion of the donations will come from the preview, along with individual and corporate contributions. An advisory board will determine which charities receive the funds.
He was an incredible person, certainly not only within our company and what he did with for Reynolds and Sports Marketing Enterprises, but Dana and the family, and including us, received notes from people who didn't even know Wayne, saying, golly, he must have been a great guy. So, our feeling is that this is the way that we can try to help him be remembered and help others in the process, which is the way he would have approached it.
A donation was also made this weekend to the Kyle Petty Charity Ride from the NFL Players Association. Last week's cross-country motorcycle trip from California to North Carolina raised in excess of $400,000, including a now additional $10,000 from the pro football players who were associate sponsors on Petty's Pontiac.
Well, we just felt so strongly about our relationship with Kyle and the Pettys, and the job they've done with the charity ride and the other charities that Kyle's involved in. It was just an opportunity for us to help out and recognize the exceptional work that he's done.
While most teams had their new paint schemes out for last night's Winston, Michael Waltrip is saving his for the Coca-Cola 600. His sponsor, Citco, is sponsoring a program called the Super Challenge in this year's Goodwill Games. And to promote it, track and field star Jackie Joyner-Kersey helped Waltrip unveil next week's paint scheme Saturday night.
Citgo is one of the sponsors, we're the sponsor for the Super Challenge, and the Super Challenge is going to benefit the Boys and Girls Club of America. And what we're trying to do is to bring awareness, bring in over 1 million volunteers. So far we have over $1 million, and it's just a great opportunity for Citgo, Michael Waltrip, to have the logo on his car. It's going to be on TBS, and it's going to be great. We have the Goodwill Games in July. I'm going to be competing. It's going to be my last Goodwill Games competition, so this is just great to be able to come to a NASCAR event, to meet Michael Waltrip, and to know that the logo is on his car, and the Boys and Girls Club of America is going to benefit from it.
One of the causes being promoted this weekend was a big push to promote wildlife conservation. Ward Burton sported a Racing for Wildlife paint scheme in the Winston Open, while Dale Earnhardt and Richard Childress are donating 10% of their winnings from the Winston to the North Carolina Wildlife Habitat Foundation.
It's for a great cause. Both Dale and I both are outdoorsmen and really love the outdoors, and we want it to be here for our grandkids and our kids. And it's just something that's great for everybody. Things like that just don't happen. We all have to jump in there and help support the wildlife to keep it.
While Earnhardt has suffered a rough few weeks, things couldn't be better for his son. Dale Earnhardt Jr. became this year's first two-time pole winner in the Busch Series on Saturday when he took the #1 spot for this afternoon's First Union 200 at Nazareth Speedway in Pennsylvania. Tim Fedewa moved up to second when Ron Hornaday's lap was disallowed because of questionable fuel. Hornaday is filling in for Robert Presley, who ran the Winston Open last night. On row 2, it's Elton Sawyer, who got in one great lap before crashing on his second one. and Stanton Barrett, who qualified Kevin LePage's car since LePage was also in the Winston Open. On row 3, it's Elliott Sadler, who won his first career Busch Series race from the pole in this event last year. He's joined by Matt Kenseth. Row 4 is points leader Mike McLaughlin, with Curtis Markham qualifying for Dick Trickle, who was also in Charlotte. The driver change means he and LePage will both drop to the back of the field. And on row 5, it's last week's pole sitter Joe Bessie and Glenn Allen, who dropped to the back in a backup car. Well, that's all the time we have for this segment of Inside NASCAR, but when we come back, the feature portion of our show, so stick around.
Welcome back to the feature portion of Inside NASCAR here on TNN. I'm Ned Jarrett along with Stephanie Boyd-Durner. Stephanie, let's get right into the feature portion with a technical piece, window tear-off, something relatively new in NASCAR racing.
Yeah, but it's becoming very necessary because it can become so hard to see out on the racetrack. These windshields can pick up grease, rubber, any kind of debris that might be out there. Makes it really hard for these guys to see, but the window tear-offs are making it a lot better for them.
Well, let's go in tech and find out more about window tear-offs.
Hi, I'm Tony Enderley. I work with the number 98 Cal Yarborough Thornapple Valley Ford. Today we're talking about windshield tear-offs. Windshield tear-offs was pretty much developed in the sprint car days to keep mud and trash off the driver's visors. They really work well in Winston Cup too. Only thing that they are adhesive. They stick to the windshield, they don't blow off. It's really nice. We use them every week. They're very economical. This is a prime example of the tear-off. And this is an example of one that had already been tore off. So it just kind of makes it look like it's pretty pitted. So when we tear this off, it really leaves a clean finish about halfway through the race, and that's how we're able to see the rest of the race.
The NASCAR Busch Series runs its 11th race of the year at Nazareth, Pennsylvania this weekend. And Stephanie, that division has been sort of wide open this year. A lot of people thought that Randy LaJoie, after Steve Park left to go to the Winston Cup Series, would just sort of run away with things, but it hasn't been that way. There have been a lot of different pole winners and a lot of different race winners.
Yeah, and Todd Bodine, too. Don't forget him moving up. But you're right. There have been 10 races so far. We've seen 9 different winners, 10 different pole winners, but we've really seen a mixed bag of drivers in victory lane. We've seen veterans like Mike McLaughlin, Buckshot Jones, Elliott Sadler, but we've seen some newcomers, too, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been tremendously impressive, and, of course, Matt Kenseth winning at Rockingham.
And that's refreshing to see those drivers in victory lane. Phil Wurz has a report card on the Busch Series to this point.
When Steve Park left the NASCAR Busch Series, people wondered who might stop Randy LaJoie from winning an unprecedented third straight championship. Well, that's why they run the races. With Park gone, let's start with his replacement, Dale Earnhardt Jr. After a wild ride at Daytona to start the season, the new driver of the AC Delco Chevy has been equal to the challenge. He won his first Busch race ever at Texas and only his 16th start, at 4 top 5s and 7 top 10s, and the comparisons to his famous dad have been predictable.
Yeah, well, I'm a little surprised by how well we're doing, but I knew this team was capable of doing it. I just didn't know whether I had enough experience or, I was going to be able to, turn the wheel like Steve Park did. So.
Matt Kenseth has provided one of the most exciting moments of the first third of the Busch Series season, a dramatic last lap pass of Tony Stewart at Rockingham, one of not only the race, but a full-time sponsor.
I think if we can qualify better, we need to get up front and lead some more laps and, run a little consistently, a little bit farther up in the front, I guess. The consistency has been there and the finishing has been there. I just feel like we need to step up our qualifying and, maybe run up front a little farther during the race.
Buckshot Jones has title in mind in '98 and took a big step forward last weekend toward that goal with his win at Loudon. He says there's one thing his team can do to stay in the top 5 this season.
When we don't qualify good, we qualify mid-pack or in the back. Just be more patient than what we are, because it's so easy, to get in a wreck, to accidentally bump somebody or whatever, and, cause yourself not to finish the race. So whenever we get back there, we just need to make sure we finish them.
When you look at the first 10 races of the NASCAR Busch season, the one word you think of is competitive. In those races so far, there amazingly have been 10 different pole sitters. And of those 10 races, 9 different drivers have celebrated in victory lane. Only Joe Nemechek has repeated as a Busch Series winner in '98, and of course he drives full-time in Winston Cup.
Each of the races we've had a different person leading at halfway point, so it's been pretty incredible with the amount of competition we've had.
And with all that wealth being spread around, being shut out this season is two-time defending champion Randy LaJoie. A champion like him is used to winning, so don't expect this team to just roll over and die.
Last year we won a couple races this time, and this year we haven't even led a lap. So there's a lot of problems that we're fixing here at Base Motorsports. You know, we built some new cars, new lighter cars. K-Tech's working hard on motors. We got some TNN motors. And just, you know, these other guys have gotten tougher. These other guys have gotten faster, and we're coming back. We're not out of it yet.
Leading the NASCAR Busch Series points now after 10 events is Mike McLaughlin. He played some sweet music in Nashville with his first win in '98 and hopes to be singing a tune all the way to his first Busch Series title. He has 6 top 10s and is averaging a 10th place finish.
We need to win some races, and when we're not capable of winning, we need to come home with a good finish. And the points will take care of themselves from that point.
Other great stories. How about Casey Atwood, 17 years old and full of talent? He nearly won at Nashville, finishing second. Elliott Sadler tamed the high banks at Bristol and can never be counted out of the title chase. His brother Hermie has yet to win in '98, but is a solid top 10 points guy. Jason Keller is quietly having a tremendous season. Ed Berry won his first Busch Series race ever after 209 starts when he took the checkers at Hickory. The goal for most, if not all, of these drivers is to run Winston Cup. But if you're not following or excited about the NASCAR Busch Series in '98, you're missing one heck of a season. Who will win the championship? At this point, it could come down to who wins the last race at Homestead.
Well, thanks, Phil. A guy who used to run and have a lot of success in the Busch Series is Chad Little, and now he's having success in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series.
He sure is. We talked to Chad and Johnny Benson both at the beginning of this year about joining up with Roush Racing. Of course, we really didn't know what to expect at that time, but we've since found out that it was a terrific move for Chad Little.
Well, Tyler Potter has more on his story.
1998 has been the best season to date for Chad Little in Winston Cup. His 4 top 10s are 1 more than he had in the 12 years prior. Although he sits 17th in points, he was as high as 8th at one point. What's the reason? 2 words, Jack Roush.
The whole focus of how Jack builds his organizations is give the driver a thorough understanding of what he needs, give him what he needs, and then build an organization around what he needs. I mean, it's all focused on that. The potential's there, and it's awful exciting. It's a good way to make a living on a paid vacation.
If this is Chad's best season, his best race had to be the Texas 500 last month. He finished a career-high second to his teammate Mark Martin. And while his dream of making it to a Winston Cup victory lane is in reach, at the same time, he's realistic.
But really, I mean, we're probably not quite there yet. I mean, I think our focus still needs to be top 10s, get in a position where we can put ourselves consistently in that neighborhood, you know, knocking on the door for those top 10s, because then that'll open some doors for some top 5s and eventually you get the wins. But, you know, you got to earn a lot of respect from the drivers that race up there every weekend, and that's more important than probably most people ever understand is those guys that race up there every weekend, they're not going to let you up there with them until the respect is there. And the only way you're going to get that respect is racing up there a few times and doing things that doesn't scare them, doesn't make them think, well, I can't race side by side with this person. And, you know, that takes time. So,
no doubt Chad has benefited from Roush's 5-car operation, which has produced 3 wins and more than 24 top 10s in just 9 races. Sharing information is the key to that success.
There is more information than I've ever had available to me as a driver. I can go to accomplished drivers, Burton and Ted Musgrave, Mark Martin, and even Johnny, and I can say I'm having a problem getting into the 3 or coming off a turn 2, and I can ask them if they've had that or what they're running for a setup, and we can share that information. Jack makes it a point that we do that, share that information. It's very important. We're one big team, and it is a big team when you think about it because there's 5 under the umbrella. Now, each team operates independently, we're one big team, and having a big operation like that, there's different types of problems you have to address on the racetrack. There are advantages, and we talked about that, sharing information, helping each other on the track, and so on. But I think if it came down to the last, it would be fun if all 5 of us ever had a chance to race for the win in the last few laps.
Chad owes everything to former owners Mark Rippon and Greg Pollux. By supporting him and keeping his name out there, they were able to attract a sponsor like John Deere. That eventually led to Roush, who bought the team from Mark and Greg late last year.
They call after every race and congratulate, or if I don't do well, they want to know why, you know. So they're good friends and big supporters, and there isn't any driver out there today that makes it at this level as competitive as it is. It doesn't have friends and supporters like Greg Pollux, like Mark Rippon. It's those type of owners that keep a team going when things aren't altogether there, whether it's the financial reasons or just the newness of the team and the people and so on. So it's important. I'm very grateful for that, and I think it's you have to remember where you came from, or you lose sight of where you're going.
Well, thanks, Chad and Tyler. And Stephanie, Chad's life sort of changed when his family started.
Yeah, it really did. Ever since his son Jesse was born, he joined up with Roush. His career's on track, and now he and his wife Donna are expecting their second baby.
Okay, wish them the best. We'll be back with more on Inside NASCAR right after this break.
Coming up, Andy Santerra's on the move in 98. His positive outlook keeps him going, even when things get rough. 3 of NASCAR's top drivers are in the limelight again, but this time, their pretty mugs will be on the big screen. We'll go behind the scenes for the making of this Coca-Cola preview. Plus, Jack Sprague. He's still sponsorless in 98, but that doesn't seem to be slowing him down. We'll go in focus with last year's Craftsman Truck Series champ.
You folks in the Northeast certainly know the name Andy Santerra. He was a standout in the NASCAR Busch North Series for a number of years. He now races in the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series and is doing well there, too. He's currently leading the point standings for Rookie of the Year honors.
Yeah, but things weren't always easy for Andy. In fact, when he was younger, it looked like illness might really keep him from ever even getting to this point.
Well, Phil Wers has his story.
You know, my first question was, what is Guillain-Barré? You know, I'd never heard of that before. So I ended up in the hospital, and within a few weeks, I had pretty much lost total movement of my body. So I laid in a hospital bed, paralyzed. Basically, the only movement I had is my left arm would bend from the elbow down. My fingers kind of went away, my feet went, just pretty much completely paralyzed. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen. Did a lot of praying, but had a lot of complications along the way. My lungs collapsed. I had some problems with my kidneys. They moved me to intensive care. Was on a ventilator for 30-some-odd days, and just kind of fighting for my life. So, like I say, I did a lot of praying, had a lot of people pulling for me, a lot of friends and family. My parents stuck beside me through the whole thing, never left my side. So the doctors kept telling me, hey, don't give up. You're going to get out of here. You're going to get better. This thing's got to take its course. And they said, we've seen it before. So they gave me a lot of high hope to get better and get well. And
Andy Santerra was only 19 years old when he contracted Guillain-Barré syndrome. He feared the unknown of a painful, crippling disease. But one thing he did know, he wanted to get better. After getting out of the hospital, he was confined to a wheelchair, having to learn how to walk all over again.
Just kept working on it, and by the end of the summer, I was doing pretty well. The only movement I didn't have was my right arm. I couldn't lift my right arm above my head. It was something going on with the nerves in my shoulder, and that's basically where the problems all started. So I went back and had some tests, and they told me that I'd probably never have the use of my right arm, but for all I'd been through, I was pretty lucky just to be walking. So, you know, was willing to live with that. I was happy to be alive and happy that God answered my prayers and gave me a second chance. And, you know, I got back to work, started making some money, and decided that, hey, you know, I'm well enough, I can maybe get in a race car now. I can't shift it real good, but once I get it in high gear, I can get both hands on the wheel and maybe drive it. So
Andy Santerra says he's living a dream driving on the NASCAR Busch Series, but he also remembers the nightmare of being in that hospital bed 10 years ago. And he says it's that memory that gives him the perspective whether he finishes in victory lane or in last place.
I guess the biggest thing it taught me is don't let anything get you down. I proved that no matter how far down you get, I was about as low as you can go, and I bounced back. So that's kind of what I do with the racing is you're going to have bad weeks, and when you do, you just got to put them behind you when you leave the racetrack, forget about that week, and move on to the next week, and just work hard. That's basically what I did to get out of the hospital. I worked hard, and I did everything I had to do in therapy to get out of there, and that's what I do at the racetrack. You know, it's my rookie year in Busch, and it's been a struggle. It hasn't been easy, but I'm not going to let it get the best of me. I'm going to conquer it eventually.
And it's those early struggles that's helping Santerre adjust to life on the NASCAR Busch Series. He won his share of races on the Busch North Series, but despite his up-and-down rookie season down south, he knows the race for life was a lot tougher.
You know, racing's a big thing in my life. You know, this is all my wife and I do. This is what we want to do. But, you know, life in general is a lot more important than racing. Being able to, people take it for granted getting out of bed in the morning, putting their pants on themselves without help. And I've been on the other end where I needed help getting out and they need someone to dress me. And that's not a whole lot of fun. So, you know, providing that you don't wreck and get hurt real bad in racing, as long as you can walk away from your race car and you can drive your car home at night, get in bed yourself, get up the next morning, you're really not having that bad a day. So it's taught me a lot about that.
Coca-Cola became the official drink of NASCAR this year, and they assembled a group of race drivers to help promote their products, and they've used some of those race drivers recently in a commercial.
Yeah, a commercial that's going to air in movie theaters. But, of course, these guys are used to being corporate spokespeople, so they're very comfortable in front of the camera, and we found that out when we went along for the shoot.
Okay, we take you behind the scenes while they were shooting that, and you're seeing it first right here on Inside NASCAR.
Oh, you mean facial tones. I thought we were going hair color. Let's do my goatee red. Okay. We'll do it Coke red and put the swoosh in it. Right across there. When some fan sees some driver putting on makeup, they're going to say, ooh, taboo, baby. That's a no-no. We're not pulling for him anymore. You think real movie stars have to do this?
All movie stars.
Coca-Cola Racing Family Goes Hollywood.
Marker.
Here's Dale Earnhardt, the Revlon representative.
Just a little blush.
Just a little blush. He would be a fall person. He likes the past, more of the light browns, the greens.
Easy, guys. You know where you're going to see this. We're not going to see this. We'll do a making-of video that we'll give to Inside NASCAR. And
oh, that was bad.
There we go.
He really doesn't have makeup on, okay? That would be camouflage makeup.
Now, a lot of you are wondering what the heck this is all about. Well, thanks to Coca-Cola and Dale Earnhardt, Dale Jarrett, and Kyle Petty, NASCAR is going to the big screen. It's all part of Coke's commitment to the sport as the official soft drink of NASCAR. Beginning this June, you'll be able to see this trailer at more than 10,000 theaters nationwide.
And action!
Now, to film this 60-second spot, it took a crew of 50, 150 extras, and $2 million of equipment. Then there's the 7 hours of outtakes in filming all the scenes.
3.
That noise you heard was Dale spilling his Coke on the floor. Cut.
It's going to be pretty neat that this is going to be on, how many weeks? 10 weeks? We're playing for 10 weeks, and then we probably could be up for an Oscar. Yeah. I think Kyle would probably get it for leading role, though, because he spins so great. He really does a great pirouette. Yeah. He's on his toes all the time.
Choreography. I could do the choreography. Yeah, I could get, like, the directions.
I'm probably going to win
the... It really paid off. Yeah, it did.
That ballet, the 6 years of ballet.
You guys know what we're going to do. One of you should just be the director of this thing.
Well,
we got one. What are you talking about?
I'm probably going to win the Oscar for the director. He's the leading man, so I'm going to...
All right, guys, let's see the final version.
Dad, can you give me a popcorn and a Coke, please?
Sure. I'll be right back.
Where's my Coke?
Boy, Stephanie, it looked like those guys were having a great time.
Yeah, well, anytime you get Kyle Earnhardt and your son DJ together, there's going to be trouble.
I don't know who might have put those three together to begin with. That was a big gamble. Well, we'll be back with Buddy Baker's career and the 50th anniversary, and we'll also go in focus with Jack Sprague, so you stay with us.
Even if we were second right now in the point standings, I'm still tickled to death with our year. I mean, 5 top 4s. That's good. That's consistent. You know, the way we're running, the points will take care of themselves.
Buddy Baker had a great career in racing. He's already in several Hall of Fames. He currently is an analyst for both CBS and TNN on the races they broadcast. Since he's had a lot of success at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, it's only appropriate that we look at his career in celebrating NASCAR's 50th anniversary.
For the past 40 years, Buddy Baker has been a mainstay in the world of NASCAR Winston Cup racing. From 1959 through 1992, Baker drove to 19 victories and 30 pole positions. Since hanging up his helmet, Baker has continued to be a big part of NASCAR through his expert racing analysis right here on TNN. Buddy Baker is a second-generation racer, following the path blazed by his father, two-time NASCAR national champion Buck Baker. When Buddy Baker was a driver, he was considered a super speedway genius. His wins include 3 victories at Charlotte and 4 at Talladega. He also had a clue at Daytona. On July 4th, 1983, Baker started the 25th annual Firecracker 408, but quickly moved toward the front. Cale Yarborough and Joe Ruttman started on the front row, but they both had trouble early. The race came down to fuel mileage, and it was Baker getting by Terry Labonte with a lap to go for his 19th and final Winston Cup victory, driving for the Wood brothers. The win also ended Ford's slump of 13 months without a win. Another big accomplishment in Baker's life was becoming the first driver to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier on a closed course. He was driving a 1969 Dodge Daytona. His speed was 200.447 miles per hour at Talladega, March 24th, 1970. Buddy Baker, another legend produced from 50 years of NASCAR.
Well, Buddy Baker, he was a hard charger. And Stephanie, one of the things I remember about him, the very last race that I ran at the North Carolina Motor Speedway at Rockingham, 1966, I must have run side by side with Buddy Baker for the last 200 laps. He made me earn my money that day.
Yeah, he was a fierce competitor, and today everybody knows that he's a fierce storyteller, too. And I got to say, he's one of my favorites. I know I'm not supposed to have him, but he is.
Well, he is a great guy. We'll be back and go in focus with Jack Sprague right after this.
Hi, I'm Rusty Wallace, driver of the number 2 Miller Lite Ford Taurus. NASCAR, happy 50th anniversary.
Welcome back to Inside NASCAR here on TNN. Jack Sprague is the defending champion of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. He drives for Hendrick Motorsports in a Chevrolet. But Stephanie, after his championship last year, a lot of people thought that he'd come out just blazing, but the year didn't really start out that good for him.
You know, I think especially surprising is the fact that he came back even without a sponsor. He didn't win through the first few events of the season, but he is the points leader. Last weekend, he returned to victory lane, and now he hopes he's back on track for another title. Jack Sprague likes to win, and in the first 4 races of the 1998 season, he came close. But it wasn't until last week in Monroe, Washington, that Sprague made it to victory lane this year. Not bad for some drivers, almost surprising for Sprague. After wrapping up the 1997 title last season, the Hendrick Motorsports driver and his team started focusing their efforts on a run at Winston Cup. But when that didn't pan out, they scrambled to restart their truck team, costing themselves a sponsor in the process. On the track, they didn't miss a beat, though, finishing strong, taking over the points lead after race 4, and in race 5, scoring Sprague's 9th career victory. Jack, relief to finally have a win under your belt?
Well, I tell you, it's a big relief. We've had an awful good year, probably the best year of my career to this point. 5 races, 5 top 4 finishes.
you know, the only race that we haven't been in position to where we could have won it was the first race at Orlando. The other 4 we actually were capable of winning. Just we get to the end and they get away from us. But we finally won one, and it's especially gratifying for myself because that's one of the, I've had more trouble at that racetrack than I've probably had anywhere else.
The guy who followed Sprague to the checkers at Monroe is the same guy who sits only 18 points behind him in the standings, 1996 Truck Series champion Ron Hornaday. Their intense on-track battles have drawn an imaginary line in the sand between them, and it all creates great fodder for the media and fans alike. Talk about your relationship with Ron Hornaday. Is it the bitter rivalry that everybody seems to think it is?
Yeah, it probably is in more ways than not. You know what you're dealing with. I mean, if you go outside of your house and there's a snake on the ground, if you reach down to grab it, you're pretty sure you're going to get bit. So going into it knowing that, you know where you stand. The only difference is I know what he's going to do, and he doesn't know what I'm going to do.
Do you guys, though, I know you've had a lot of beating and banging going on the past couple of years. A lot of times, if it's somebody that you're not that comfortable with, you might back off a little bit more. Regardless of what your personal feelings might be, do you guys respect each other enough as racers that you can maintain and fight for that position?
Well, you know, a perfect example is Phoenix. It cost me the race, and yeah, I was upset about it. But, you know, we both came close to going over the line there, and we both came close to getting in some trouble there. So, probably him more than I, as far as I'm concerned. He's a heck of a race car driver. That's obvious. I'm not taking that away from him. His style and mine is probably 180 degrees different. We've raced Portland and Seattle with the truck sitting behind us and don't have the first tire mark on it. And, you know, after Portland, his truck just about needed a whole new body. And after Seattle was beat up. So it's just 2 different driving styles. And I think what we try to do is just get fast enough to where we don't have to be near him all day.
Besides the obvious reward of beating Hornaday, not to mention the question mark about the team's future unless a sponsor is found, Sprague says he has other factors to keep him more motivated than ever in his pursuit of a second Craftsman Truck Series title.
Probably because nobody's won it back-to-back, nobody's won it twice. But I want to win more races than 3 races that we won last year. I want to win at least 5 like we did in '96. This team's way capable of doing that. I mean, we could be sitting here with 4 right now, easy, if things would have just went just slightly different. So, you know, we've got to win on one of the worst racetracks that I have personally. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, and I'm looking forward to winning the championship and winning more races and hopefully driving this truck again next year.
Yeah, you've talked about how much you enjoy this series and what a great series it is. How long do you think you would be content to run here?
I love this series for several reasons. One reason is, you know, it's a lot of fun. You know, you walk around the garage area at a truck race and everybody's goofing off and smiling and having a good time. I like that. You know, and I like being home a little bit. I want to drive Winston Cup. That's obvious. I've said it. I've stated it. I've repeated it. But I'm not going to do it wrong. The only way I'm going to do it is in the right situation, a good situation. I mean, a lot of guys go there for the wrong reasons. I mean, you look at guys that take maybe a middle to back running team and go to it just to make the big money. I don't have them. I don't have to have airplanes. I don't have to have $1 million houses on the lake. Man, I'm having the time of my life with what I'm making, and I can live fine off that very easily. So it's not a money thing for me. I've never been motivated money-wise to race because that's not why I did it. And it's usually cost me everything I've had to race. So this is like a bonus. I get paid to do it.
Well, Ned, I'm certainly not going to say that these are going to be the only 2 guys in it, but if Jack Sprague and his arch-rival Ron Hornaday have anything to do with it, I'm sure this battle for the title is going to be bitter to the very end.
Well, they really helped to keep that series very exciting. Hey, we have something exciting coming up, the mailbox, right after this, so don't you go away.
Jeremy Mayfield is looking the competition over from atop the leaderboard. Now, it's the battle on the home field as Winston Cup hits Charlotte. And for 5 guys, that means a shot at a cool $1 million.
Right now, I'd pay $1 million to win one of these races. I love money, don't you?
You'll get a preview of the No Bull 5 Round 2 next week inside NASCAR.
The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question today is from Jeff Estes from Bloomington, Illinois. How come the windows on a NASCAR race car never break or shatter during a race? And would these type of windows be suitable for passenger cars?
Hi, my name is Clyde McLeod, crew chief for the Stanley Pontiac. We had a question today on the Lexan windows that we use in the race cars, front and rear. It's a good question, Jeff, why they don't use them in a street car. And I guess the reason really is the cost of them, and they're not very resistant to scratches. They are very strong and don't break in an accident, and if anything flies from another car into the windshield, it bounces right off. It's also called bulletproof glass, which they use in presidential limousines and stuff. But I believe the reason why you won't see it in your car is the amount of expense to it, and it's not very scratch resistant. Thanks for writing in. That's a very good question.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write us at Inside NASCAR, Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. Or email us at inside.nascar@sunbeltvideo.com. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentics, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
Well, that's all the time we have for this show. We hope you enjoyed it. And remember, get online for TNN's Wild Wild Web Week all this week at country.com and get the lineup for this week's interactive events. And certainly a lot of events, Stephanie, going on to Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and you can check it all out on the web. Of course, Wednesday night is pole night, and next Sunday, the Coca-Cola 600.
And on Saturday, the CarQuest Auto Parts 300 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. You join us again here on TNN for more on the Inside NASCAR.
Inside NASCAR has been brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that whenever you feel good, it's Miller time. Visit, experience, shop Simpson World, a racer and fan superstore. Now open in Mooresville, North Carolina, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Torrance, California. For more information, call 1-800-71-RACIN or visit our website at www.simpsonraceproducts.com. Ground transportation is provided by Glavelle, the official van conversion company of NASCAR. Glavelle, the choice of NASCAR tracks, teams, and drivers. Call 800-445-2825 for a dealer near you. Communications provided by Racing Radios, the two-way radio provider of the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, Busch Series, and Craftsman Truck Series.